Dave Grohl once said, "To me, Zeppelin was spiritually inspirational. I was attending Catholic school and questioning God, but I believed in Led Zeppelin. I wasn't buying into Christianity, but I had faith in Led Zeppelin as a spiritual entity. They showed me that humans could channel this music, and it felt like it was coming from somewhere beyond." Now that is some pretty high praise, isn't it? Now Dave Grohl has always been really heavily inspired by Led Zeppelin, so much so that the band actually helped him dictate his direction in life. Pioneering heavy music and laying the groundwork for what would become metal, Led Zeppelin has provided a similar sense of escape and influence for countless artists. Black Sabbath, Queens of the Stone Age, and Pearl Jam, to name just a few. For Grohl and many others, the track Black Dog was an iconic song. It's a track that truly exemplifies Led Zepp's blend of blues, hard rock, and intricate musicianship. Grohl said Black Dog from Zeppelin 4 is what Led Zeppelin were all about in their most rocking moments, a perfect example of their true might. It didn't have to be really distorted or really fast, it just had to be Zeppelin, and it was really heavy. But the track Since I've Been Loving You holds a really special place in Dave Grohl's heart, and that's because of Jimmy Page and his way of performing with the guitar. Grohl explained, "When I listen to Zeppelin bootlegs, his solos can make me laugh or cry. Any live version of Since I've Been Loving You can bring you to tears and fill you with joy simultaneously." Page doesn't just play the guitar, it's like an emotional translator for him. For Grohl, this emotional translation is akin to exorcisms the band performed on stage. He said Hendrix was a genius on fire, whereas Page was a genius possessed. Zeppelin concerts and albums were like exorcisms for them. He plays the guitar like an old bluesman on acid. While every Led Zeppelin album nowadays is considered as a classic, Dave Grohl holds a special fondness for one in particular that may surprise you. For many, Led Zeppelin 3 stands as an unusual entry in the band's catalogue. Previously, Zeppelin was known for essentially electrifying blues rock. Their debut was a ferocious release in the late 1960s, but their second album cemented their status, producing rock classics like Whole Lotta Love and Heartbreaker. Fans expected more of the same with Led Zeppelin 3, especially considering the album's opener, the Immigrant Song. However, the shift to a more subdued, folk-influenced sound marked one of the most dramatic tonal shifts in rock history. And it left some fans disappointed. While the guitars weren't as aggressive throughout the album, Dave Grohl, then at the perfect age to appreciate the music, found profound meaning in it. Speaking to Rolling Stone, he said Led Zeppelin 3 was full of gentle beauty. That was the soundtrack to me dropping out of high school. I listened to it every single day in my VW Bug, contemplating my direction in life. That album, for whatever reason, preserves some light in me that I still have. While Foo Fighters are a more straightforward rock band, Grohl has occasionally infused his music with Led Zeppelin's influence. Acoustic tracks are not new for Foo Fighters, but the experimental turns on the latter half of In Your Honor, for example, echo the moody atmosphere of Zeppelin, especially with John Paul Jones contributing to some arrangements. Dave Grohl, a self-professed Led Zeppelin superfan, doesn't see Led Zeppelin 3 as an inferior album. In fact, it was the beginning of the band's self-discovery. I mean, if Led Zeppelin never took those creative risks, we might never have gotten tracks like Stairway to Heaven that we know and love today. Now, as Dave Grohl is of course a sensational drummer himself, he has a lot of praise for Led Zeppelin's drummer John Bonham. In fact, Bonham was one of the biggest influences on Dave Grohl's early musical career. He told Rolling Stone, "John Bonham played the drums like someone who didn't know what was going to happen next. Like he was teetering on the edge of a cliff. No one has come close to that since, and I don't think anybody ever will. I think he will forever be the greatest drummer of all time. You have no idea how much he influenced me. I spent years in my bedroom, literally years, listening to Bonham's drums and trying to emulate his swing or his behind-the-beat swagger or his speed or power. Not just memorizing what he did on those albums, but getting myself into a place where I would have the same instinctual direction as he had. I have John Bonham tattoos all over my body, on my wrists, my arms, my shoulders. I gave myself one when I was 15. It's the 3 circles that were his insignia on Zeppelin 4 and on the front of his kick drum. Despite taking a slightly different musical path, Dave Grohl has always held Led Zeppelin in high regard. And he still thinks they'll reunite one day. He said this: "I believe Zeppelin will return and prove themselves as the greatest rock band of all time. They'll find someone to play drums, and I'll be there, front row at every show." Now, the closest they got to reuniting was probably the time that Page and John Paul Jones helped Dave Grohl live out his wildest fantasy. The Foo Fighters tour for Echo, Silence, Patience and Grace in 2008 was a monumental one, featuring 131 shows over 20 intense months spanning the globe from Finland to New Zealand and many places in between. However, the pinnacle of the tour was undoubtedly the two performances at London Wembley Stadium in June 2008, with an 86,000 strong audience marking a certain career highlight for Grohl and Foo Fighters. The second show on June 7th became an unforgettable night. The encore was particularly special. Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones joined Foo Fighters on stage for their first live appearance since Zeppelin's Celebration Day show the previous year. With the late Taylor Hawkins on vocals, they performed Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll with Grohl on drums, visibly ecstatic. Grohl then took the mic for Ramble On. The audience were understandably losing their minds. Wembley was without a doubt the highlight of our 14 years as a band, Grohl later told Classic Rock. A full production rehearsal took place the night before the first show. "It went really well," said Page. "The band is great, really tight, and Dave is such a nice guy." And on that Saturday night, when Page and John Paul Jones joined Foo Fighters, it allowed Taylor Hawkins and Dave Grohl to live out their wildest dreams. "There are no words to describe how important that was to me," Grohl said. "Sitting on a drum stool looking out at Jimmy and John and kicking into the intro of Rock and Roll, that single moment was my life's greatest dream." And this wouldn't be the only time that Grohl collaborated with Led Zeppelin members. A year later, Grohl combined forces with John Paul Jones and Queen of the Stone Age vocalist Josh Homme to form the supergroup, Them Crooked Vultures. They released one self-titled album, one incredible garage, rocky, psychedelic and experimental metal album. The band's success was simply remarkable. Following a series of summer festival appearances, their US tour completely sold out. Their entire December tour in the UK sold out in 12 minutes. And this all happened, bear in mind, before they had released any songs. I mean, that's just incredible. Despite the success, they went on hiatus just after 1 year. All of the members have since said they'd be keen to get the band back together, but, you know, they lead busy lives. It must have been really nice for John Paul Jones to be in a band with people he can actually call his friends. Not like Led Zeppelin. Yeah, John Paul Jones once revealed that the members of Led Zeppelin weren't friends. You can click over here to watch my video on that next.